And I think MLP was a really big kind of player, and Steve Kuhn came into the sport. And can you tell us a little bit about that and what led to Tour Wars?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I think it's a big story in itself, and we could probably do a whole episode on that and really dive in. And I'm happy to go. And
there's documentaries coming out about this, right? Or something.
The documentary doesn't hit on it too much. It's more about
there's one that's out.
Okay, but I heard there was more like that's really gonna kind of showcase what went on or something.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, we should write a book. That's what we should do.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. So MLP popped up, and like, I think really like team pickleball is so fun, and like we love it. Tom loves it. I love it. The group loves it. You know, we're here before the MLP finals now, and like we're super stoked of like what team pickleball is turning into.
Mm-hmm.
You know, MLP pops up, and it's definitely a wrinkle into what we're doing. Like you think of the PPA tour, and it's much more of like what the ATP is to tennis or the PGA is to golf, where it's the best on the best individual ranking, who's going to be the best player in the world. And the team pickleball is like anything but that. It's cities, celebrity team owners, you know, players, camaraderie, rowdiness. And it's like super fun. And so like it definitely popped up, and you know, it was definitely something that we took a look at. We said, hey, like, is there a way that any of this fits and works together? You know, and Ben and I actually got Tom and Steve into a room, and we all started talking about like, hey, is there a way to put a deal together? And
wow.
At the beginning, like it would have been much easier to put a deal together then. And I think the problem is like the PPA tour, it was generating revenue. We knew what it was going to be. At that point, MLP was just an idea. And so it's so hard to put a deal together that's not lopsided.
But at the time, they had announced a lot of the big celebrity
This
owners.
was pre that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd heard about the Steve Kuhn meeting in Dallas, and I heard it was pretty contentious.
Yeah, I think it was pretty contentious because like I remember us asking Steve like, what is MLP? And he pointed to the sticker on his computer and he said this. Like it was a brand, it was an idea.
Yeah.
And like he did a good job executing it. But like at that time, like there wasn't, like we were happy to do a deal, but the deal was probably a deal he wouldn't have liked, right?
Because you're like, we're a known entity, you're an idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and anyways, we walked out of that meeting, and at the time we had exclusivity with the players, full exclusivity. So when Tom came in, instead of having those 3 events that I used to have, we ended up paying the players more, extending them. And so we had full exclusivity at the time. So we said, okay, like good luck building MLP. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. So we did that for a year. And then some of the bigger name celebrities started getting announced. And at that time, we had been trying to work back and forth with a few of their people. Like we're working with Tom and Richie. We're talking quite a bit. Brian Levine, a few others. And like we always thought that eventually there would be some kind of deal that we had put into place.
And Steve was a hedge fund guy. Yeah. And he had a very successful hedge fund career. Tom is like
an operator and like a hard-hitting businessman who has, you know, NHL hockey teams and Carvanas and Topgolfs. And yeah, I just look at like the two different... Very different. And like everything from like the events were different. Like everything we were trying to do was like, what makes economical sense? What can we scale? What can we grow? It's not about not investing. It's about investing the right way and building things the right way. And like your foundation, it has to be solid. Mm-hmm. And you want to be able to build a house on top of your foundation. If you don't have a foundation, your house is going to get washed away, right? Yeah. So trying to like make the right decisions. And Steve, when he started, it was very much like more of an idea and passion and flamboyant and not really thinking about like what the next steps were going to be. And it was, if we get enough people to care, eventually it's all going to work. Right. Yeah. But to make a long story short, you know, they started announcing celebrity owners. We tried to put another deal together. We couldn't quite figure it out.
Were Tom and Steve kind of butting heads every time you guys met?
They didn't speak. They spoke the first time, and I don't think they've ever spoken since, even to this date.
And I mean, Steve's in Austin, and so I remember I think I played with Steve like a couple mornings later at Bolden Acres, and he was like, "Oh, it was like they were trying to steamroll us and this and that." Like, I think it was just I think the perspectives on what was going to happen were very different.
Yeah.
It comes back to alignment. Like, there just wasn't alignment.
And it's like, I don't know if Steve was expecting a 50-50 partnership right off the get-go.
I mean, you'd have been building this thing for 3 years.
Yeah, or longer. Yeah, 3 years. And Tom had already invested significant money, and we owned a bunch of assets in the space.
Then you had a deal.
Yeah. So then we ended up putting a deal together finally. Like we announced that we were going to start our own team pickleball.
league.
Yeah.
Vibe.
Yeah, which was awesome logo.
Marketing ploy?
Not a marketing, like we were ready. It's
Really?
like, we were like my core guys that worked for me, like we were all in Dallas and we were going to Tom's house like every day. And we were working, he was hitting the phones. He was talking to Tiger Woods, Garth Brooks.
Wow.
Cuban was going to be a team owner, right?
Cuban, yeah.
And I still don't have a Vibe sweatshirt, which is
I
kind
need to
of
get you one
not
of
cool.
those.
But
Yeah, I think they're like $50. You can Venmo me.
done.
But yeah, Vibe was very much going to be a thing. It's just like, hey, enough's enough. It's going to be our team pickleball thing. It's definitely going to be secondary to what the PPA tour is, but people like it. And I remember Tom, as we were negotiating, he goes, hey, the worst thing that you guys have ever done is you've already sold 16 teams. He's like, you sold all these teams for cheap. He goes, we're going to start selling our teams at $4 million a pop. So we had 4 teams sold in 1 week of us announcing Vibe. Like LOIs signed, people ready to go. Larry Fitzgerald, Mark Cuban, Chris Saka, and who was the 4th one?
Garth Brooks.
Yeah, Garth Brooks. And like, so we were ready to roll with those 4 teams. And as soon as we announced it and we got going, within 10 days, we had a deal that was on the table that we could agree to with Major League Pickleball. And this was like not a merger. It was more of like us owning equity in their company and us having alignment on where the players could play and how schedules and how everything would work. And so like we definitely trusted that. We believed in it. We had a term sheet. We got it signed.
Jason and I flew out to New York it was right around this time, actually. It was during the U.S. Open. I think it was right before. And we were going to meet with Steve and Julio to discuss them coming on as strategic partners of the kitchen and investing. And we got to lunch that day, and Steve was on a call outside. And I was like, he's like, I need a minute. So
this would have been like a year later, right? From when we like had our first deal with MLP.
I thought it was around the same time, but there was never any deal. There was never any tournaments where y'all ran it together.
There was. We did like almost a whole year.
Oh, so there was a season. Okay, so this was after.
I had my MLP team. Tom had his MLP team.
Correct. Sorry, I didn't mean to fast forward.
No, you're good.
So there was a season.
Yeah.
And then we came out here, and Steve comes into the restaurant. He goes, we just got commitments from all these players. We're going exclusivity. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, we're gonna go and get all these players. And so then we did an emergency podcast at Julio's apartment with Steve and Julio, with Jason and I, and it was like war. And he was like, they're not honoring that they can play. Like I think there was around like how many MLP events there could be, and that was just a crazy moment.
Was this Kansas City time?
Yeah, this would have been the exact same time as Kansas City.
I want to hear your like mind when this Kansas City thing happened, because this was probably the craziest moment in pickleball.
So you heard this was happening.
Yeah, so this was the craziest. So we had been working on getting the long form agreement of this deal done. So we agreed to a deal about a year before then. We operated for a whole year. I had an MLP team that my family ran. Tom had an MLP team. We ended up consolidating those 4 other teams into 2. And Cuban and Mark Moulton had the Dallas team. Mm-hmm. And Larry Fitzgerald and the Arizona Drive now had the Arizona team, which now Phoenix owns, right?
Phoenix,
the Flames now. And so we operated for a whole year, right? And it was getting to the point where it's like, okay, we need this long form agreement done. Like the last 90 days before this happened, like we were ready to get this thing signed and get this thing sealed and get this thing delivered. And like we could not get the lawyers on the MLP side to get the deal done. And then you start to worry. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, I gave you access.
I think they're biding time.
We did everything in good faith, you guys. We gave them access to all the players. All the best players were now playing again. We gave them full access to like our staff and our team and we were literally operating together for a year, expecting that this is going to get done. Like back to trust factor, like it didn't feel that weird to me. I did the same thing with Tom.
And
right?
You think this was a plan?
I think at some point and sometime during that, yes. I don't think everyone was in on it, but at some point between 0 months and 12 months, that's how long we were basically operating together, maybe 9 months. There was a time where Steve Kuhn woke up in the middle of the night and was like, hey, I'm not going to do this deal anymore.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I'm going to try to get the players.
Yep. And he roped us and he doped us and we were operating, together essentially. And I think he always knew what he was going to do. And it finally got to the point where it's like, okay, the ball is in their court. The lawyers have done everything they needed to do. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees. And like it was time to get the deal done. And it ended up going like radio silent. Like they stopped contacting us
for a few days.
Basically, there was a few days where we couldn't hear back from anybody, and we had constant communication every day. And I remember calling Tom, and I'm like, hey, something is weird. Something is happening.
Oh, wow.
Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. So Tom's calling Zubin. Tom's calling Brian Levine. Everything's fine. We don't know what you're talking about. Like, you know, and then all of a sudden, like 2 days later from that, even they cut off. And everybody's quiet. And so this is about like 3 or 4 days leading into Kansas City. And like I spend my summers, at least I did spend most of my summers in Utah. And so I was just flying back to Dallas. And I actually was on a flight. And I remember walking my neighborhood, like calling Tom and calling people. Zubin wouldn't answer my phone calls anymore. I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Like something's going on. So I ended up, we were already scheduled to go back to Dallas. On the airplane, I'm like, there is like, I could just feel it. I'm like, this is just so odd. And so I had Carly and the kids drop me off at the office on the way in. I'd usually go home and like help the kids and everybody get settled. They dropped me off at the office. I end up bringing everybody in a room. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but like, let's go through every single player. And like, if things don't go the way that we want them to go, like with MLP, like what do we actually think each player's worth?
Yeah.
So we actually made a spreadsheet. We went through every single player, and like, it's funny how intuition works that way. The next morning I end up getting a call, from a player. I don't want to say who, but from a player saying, hey, Connor, I've been offered this exclusive contract from MLP. Of course, I'm never, ever going to do it. But I think everybody's getting offered these things, and I think a lot of people have already signed. Like, I don't really know what's going on. And so I was planning on not going to Kansas City. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, and so from there, I just went straight to the,
So you're like, it's happening. You're like,
I knew.
Yeah.
And so I went straight to the airport. I called the lady that books our travel. I'm like, get me a ticket on the nearest. Should I go to DFW or should I go to Dallas Love? She's like, go to Dallas Love. I get on a Southwest flight. Sure enough, there's no Wi-Fi on the flight. Right before I get on, I'm sending Connor Ogden down to Target. I'm like, all right, I need underwear, a toothbrush, 3 outfits. And all of a sudden we're in the middle of it.
And so you get to Kansas City and it's like crisis mode. I don't know if we spoke, like I just remember it being very hectic time. And
then
the
players couldn't really play even. I mean, everyone was like,
it's crazy.
It was just a really weird time. And this is like my second PPA, by the way. I just want to state. So I was still trying to figure out what was even going on. I was like coming through qualifying, but I just remember it.
You got in at a good time.
Yeah, I just remember it being the weirdest feeling being there.
It was awful.
Yeah.
And so you're then on the spot trying to sign players.
Yeah,
and trying to negotiate and be like, guys, like what's going on? Like
I'm trying to. It's like these MLP is like completely buttoned up. They've got folders and they've flown people out to meet with people's hotel rooms. They've got like binders and documents, and you know Jay Markowitz is doing his thing with the ledgers and the margins, and they're all buttoned up, ready to go with these offers. And like I'm calling and I'm getting our lawyer to make a term sheet, and like it was.
Did you think at this point your business could be done?
Yeah, for sure. Like, and I think that like once I knew Ben and Anna Leigh were good, I knew we were going to be fine. Like that's, we had Ben and Anna Leigh, they were committed to what we were doing. I knew we were going to be okay. Mm-hmm. But until like we got that full commitment from them, you see some of these players signing these other deals and you kind of go like, oh, who are they going to have to play? Right? And so I think there was 2 times where I thought the business could be done. One was like right when it was happening and I didn't have Ben and Anna Leigh's commitment yet. And then number 2 is like all these players started signing and I started like looking at the list and I was like, gosh, like this is getting tough. Mm-hmm. And so then we went out and put a few absurd offers out. I remember talking to Tom. I'm like, what do you want to do here? He's like, well, how much money do you think the business is worth? And we're talking, and he's like, oh, well, we don't want the business to go away. He goes, make sure, he gave me a lot of trust and a lot of rope.
He's like, go make the offers you think you need to make.
Yeah, he let me do it. Let me do the things that I needed to do to make sure that we were going to stay around and be relevant. So quickly got Ben done, quickly got Anna Leigh done. Ben took a little bit longer to actually formally get done, but Anna Leigh, we got done straight away. And then
Leigh Waters is on site pushing people towards PPA, by the way. I remember in the players lounge, she was with Connor Ogden, who I didn't know at the time. And I had sat next to him and I could see he was bugging out, and I ended up talking to him, and I met him then while he's bugging out. And I remember Leigh Waters being like, do you want to be your own player or do you want to be a part of a team? And I'm like, I just found out what pickleball is. I was like, I just got here.
I didn't even hit a third shot drop. What are you talking
Yeah.
But I think it's such an interesting time because that has directly led us to today.
No, definitely.
So there was a huge battle for these players, and I mean, I think it led to, and I love the pros. I love the pro game, but I think it led to a lot of players, Roscoe maybe included, like everyone, you just got in the sport, getting these overinflated contracts because of Steve not honoring the word of the deal, going out and trying to sign contracts, trying to kill your business, and then you having to go and counter those attacks and sign these overinflated contracts.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like just to back up where you said like, did you ever think your business was going to be gone? There was like one night, like that second night, where I started looking at the board and I saw everybody, and I ended up getting a call from one of the MLP team owners. I guess I'll just say who it is. It was Richie. And Richie calls me, and he's basically like, hey, it's over. And I said, oh, well, what about these players? He's like, we've got all of them. And I knew that I had some of them. So I'm like, but I felt like, hey, this could be over. He then transfers Steve on the phone. And Steve is like, basically, he offered me a lot of money, millions and millions and millions of dollars, and the ability to still operate and run the PPA tour and help with MLP. And he's like, I want you to turn your back on Tom. And I want you to throw the towel in. And I'm going to change your life. I'm going to give you so much money that it's going to change your life. It's going to change your family's life. It's going to change your kid's life. But I want you to turn your back on Tom. And I immediately told him he was crazy and that I was never going to do that, just because that's just not the person I am.
This is fucking nuts.
I would never do it. I mean, it was this time where it's like, you don't know if you're going to cry. You don't really know what's going on. Like, you're not sleeping much. Like, and you have a conversation.
Good with Richie?
Right now, Richie and I probably don't have like the best relationship, but I wouldn't say it's the worst relationship either. Like, I think
you and Steve?
I haven't spoken to Steve since all this has happened. So, but anyways, like in that moment, like being asked to do something like that, like you immediately know, like that's wrong. That's not the right thing to do. Like, look at how much Tom has done to be able to take the business to where it is today. And it was an easy decision for me to say, hey, that's not going to happen. And then immediately the next day, like the tide started to turn. We signed Julian. We signed Lauren, who had just won MLP MVP. We bring in Deckel Barr, who was kind of like really close to Steve. We end up signing
that was a big one.
Jack Sock, Jeannie Bouchard, Donald Young. Like all of a sudden things are starting to roll the right way.
Roscoe Bellamy.
Yeah.
I was actually MLP, believe it or not.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
I tried.
Sorry.
I tried. I didn't know Connor like at all at that point. But I did see you like a week after
in Kansas City.
and then I met a week after in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati, yeah.
And then we met. Yeah.
But yeah, so at that time for a split second, but then the next day came and I realized we were going to be in a fine position.
I feel like it's really unfortunate the way things shook out with Steve, and that doesn't mean that it wasn't deserved, because I think, and then I know Steve tried to sell teams from what I understand.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know all the details.
Tried to break it off again.
But I think Steve was a great visionary for the sport. I think MLP, I think Duper, I thought Dreamland was cool, and it just sucks, and I think that like. I think just there wasn't that alignment in the beginning. And I think maybe he brought a knife to a gunfight in that first meeting with Dundon and you. And so I mean,
People say, business people who have done a lot of high level things, that what happened with the Tour Wars was the craziest thing they had ever seen in all of business. Like one of the
Tom too.
Yeah, and I mean Tom Dundon, who's done an insane amount of entrepreneurship. You're probably 27 at this time.
Yeah.
Going through what guys who have been doing this for 20, 30 years are saying it's the craziest thing they've ever seen in business. I mean, obviously tough times create strong people, but my gosh, like I mentally, how'd you get through that?
Honestly, like I think there was never a time to sit down and really think about like, what am I actually going through? What's actually happening? And like, at the end of the day, like I love pickleball. Like I love the players. I love the sport. I want it to succeed. But like, I always knew that like without it, my life is still going to be okay. Like I've got an amazing wife at home.
Yeah.
At the time I had 4 kids that were 3 and under, right? 2 sets of twins. It's
wild.
Great family, great parents. Like if it all didn't work out at the end of the day, Would it have sucked? Yes. Would I probably have always like had a piece of me that was super upset and sad and like what could it have all been if we put it together? Sure. But like knowing that you have that at home and like everything's going to be okay at the end of the day. Like I think that was getting through it. And then like I think being in the moment and like just being the grinder, it's like, how do we solve problems? Like how do we make sure we have the advantage? Like part of me enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Part of me enjoyed
Like putting the puzzle together.
the puzzle, the grind, like, we just trying to put the deal together, trying to figure out what it's going to be, the strategy. So like, I think when we look back, sure, that was crazy. And did it like put a dent into the business? 100%. Like what happened, like it made no sense. Like it had no economical sense. It was all made up, fabricated, like for people to try to save their business, right? But I think when we look back at this, like 5 years from now, we're going to say, hey, the best thing that ever happened was that.
Yeah, I agree.
We spent a lot of money, but you know what it did is it unified everybody. It brought everybody under one roof. It brought all the talent under one roof. It brought all the MLP team owners under one roof, the executives, the personnel, the pro players. And like now what's so awesome is like I get to wake up every day and our team gets to wake up every day. And it's like we're not competing in the space anymore. Mm-hmm. Like now it's just about like how do we grow? How do we make the events bigger? How do we make the events better? How do we make the product better to watch? How do we bring in more partners? How do we try to drive media value? How do we try to work with the kitchen? How do we try to work with, all of our media partners? How do we try to help these pro players become celebrities? How do we get more people to want to watch? How do we sell more tickets? And like getting to do all that and focus on all that and not focus on all the outside stuff. Like we've seen the business grow so much the last 3 years. It's crazy to think it's been like 2.5 years or 2.5 years since all that craziness happened in Kansas City. And like having everybody under one hood, one umbrella, and like having some, like now it's not just Tom, like that's my mentor too. Like our MLP board is amazing. We've got Al Tylis and Jason Stein and Zubin and all these other Rich Chaffetz and all these other Mark Molthen, all these other business leaders, people that know sports, people that want to help make it grow. Like it's so much better than what it was before. And so like sacrifice, yes.
You
like
also
doing stupid economic decisions, yes. But hopefully in the long run, we say, hey, that's the best thing that happened.
You also give careers to how many players do you guys have signed?
166.
166 people who basically said, I can now, stop doing what I'm doing and focus full time on pickleball and do something I love. And I think that, especially for me, I mean, I wake up in the morning now and I am so excited to live my life because it's pickleball, because I get to go play as a professional athlete. And then I also get to live, my entrepreneurial journeys, doing pickleballers, doing other things in the sports, traveling. And so a lot of that craziness, I think, created a lot of hard times, but also a lot of good. And you guys helped so many people. And so I think, from that perspective, as a player, it's only something I can be thankful for.